All right. Okay, guys, here it is. It's like a trap. Get it? It's like a mouse trap. You know, it has that cheese in it, and the cheese tempts the little mouse, and then snap, he gets cut in half. Okay, it's about temptation. So let's read this. Let's see. Marcella, can you read? All right. Awesome. Okay. So basically, y'all remember studying Buddha way back when?
I was a Buddhist.
You were? Okay. What did Buddha say that the reason for our suffering is? Do you remember? Why do we suffer?
We are born for suffer, and now we got to.
Yeah, but why do we suffer? It's because of our own desires, you know? And so it's just like this temptation thing. Do what? You sure? It's like that cookie that Z brought me. I'm sorry, I was thinking his last name and his first name combined. So that cookie is going to make me fatter, right? I won't burn it off. I have other temptations that prevent me from burning it off. I'm not going to do it. I have a car, I'll drive 2 miles. So me not resisting that desire for that cookie is going to make me fat. Hey, what's up, dog?
Did you get coffee at Sunrise?
No, I didn't take roll yet. All right, Marcella, who's praying for us? I do it all the time. Y'all just never chose me. All right, get up. Pray up, Katie and I. All right, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, watch over us today as it gets cold. Those of us that can't handle cold are going to be suffering a little bit. I ask that you also bless us, or continue to bless us, and we're very thankful for all of our blessings, including the ones we're not sure of yet. We ask that you help us to resist those temptations that cause us our own suffering. Anyway, in Jesus' name we pray, amen. Fathers. All right, guys. So, introducing a new topic to you today. Aiden, I want you to look at this graph and just tell us how much money is supplied at an interest rate of 6%. You got it. 650 billion. Okay? All right, you're not done yet. What about at 8% interest? All you got to do is look at the graph. The supply curve is this one, the money supply curve. Still 650. All right, good. 4%? 650. All right, good. Now, why do you think that is so? That's right. There's no relationship between the interest rate and the supply of money. The Fed determines how big the money supply is. They don't care what the price of money is. They just decide it's going to be, in this example, that big. Okay? Cool. Now, Aiden, one more thing here. A couple more things. What might shift the supply of money? Did you did your homework? Okay, what's the big job of the Federal Reserve? Just the overarching theme. Mm-hmm. They determine how big the money supply is going to be. So what would shift the money supply curve? Okay. How about they just decide to make it bigger? Okay. So if it gets bigger, it shifts over this direction. Now what happens to the interest rate? Goes down, right? Oh, if they decrease the supply of money,
It's 86 and 4, it's all at 650, but if you move it to the right, it's on
because it's all based on these equilibriums. Okay? You got it. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We don't care about the demand for money right now. We already talked about that anyway. How about number 5, though? Think about if they do increase the money supply and interest rates get lower, how does that affect investment? It increases investment. Good. And that would do what to the aggregate demand curve? Increase it. Cool. So basically, instead of using fiscal policy now, we're going to use monetary policy. And that's what it involves doing. Increasing, decreasing the supply of money, which influences interest rates, which influences investment, which can boost or hurt the economy, however they want to do it. So you guys, today, we're going to look at just money. Okay? We're going to understand why we use money. Today's actually a pretty simple day. Y'all should have skipped today if you were going to skip. Yeah. I want to tell you ahead of time. Anyway, no, but seriously, today is very simple. Okay, we're going to look at why we don't use barter anymore. You know, how money evolved. What does something have to? What functions does money have to perform in order for it to be money? Okay, and then we're just going to quickly go through the makeup and the function of the Fed. Yes. Do y'all remember some of the complications we had with fiscal policy? We had what? Oh, okay, I didn't put that. I need to put that up there. It's a short-term, well, you know what, though? So is monetary policy. So, yeah, but that's true. Okay, it's a short-term fix. It doesn't really help long-run stuff. Okay. Here's what I got. I got crowding out effect. You all remember that? Okay, fiscal policy changes interest rates in the opposite way you would want to. So with expansionary policy, it raises interest rates, which would, stifle investment, so it does the opposite that you want it to do. Then you've got the negative net export effect, which is the same thing as crowding out. If we have higher interest rates and the dollar appreciates, that makes our exports go down. So that's not a good thing, right? Okay, that's counter-cyclical as well. And then you've got the lag effects. So to know we're in a recession takes several, 6 months or longer. And then by the time you do something, it takes a long time for it to take effect. So it's the lag. And then finally, it can create political business cycles. So it can exacerbate the peak, and it can create a worse recession than we would have had otherwise. So those are some complications. Those are the criticisms of fiscal policy. So now we're going to start looking at monetary policy, and it doesn't really have any of these same things. Okay, the big complaint about monetary policy is that it can lead to inflation, and so we'll look at that another day. Anyway, basically monetary policy is just all about changing the money supply. Okay, if we want the economy to expand, we should make the money supply bigger. If we want it to contract, we should make it smaller. And so that's how it works. But I thought it'd be fun just to look at dollars for a second. Did y'all ever notice that all the dollars are a little bit different? They're all just a little bit different. Yeah, they all have different numbers on them. Okay, so they're not all the same. They all have a unique serial number. And so part of it has to do with the bank it comes from. So when we look at money, all of the money is issued by the Federal Reserve. And it's not just issued by one Federal Reserve. There's 12 Federal Reserve banks. And each of these banks will issue currency. So this particular dollar came from Chicago. The letter G signifies the 7th District Bank. And the 7th District Bank is Chicago.
Where's the Dallas?
The Dallas one is the letter K. For Katie. Ah. Do what? The letter right here. Oh, our Federal Reserve Bank. Yeah, it's downtown across the street from Clyde Warren Park and across the street from the Perot Museum. Be cool, right? Yeah. That's why people launder it. Okay, you get a nickel. You get a nickel. No, you didn't laugh. Y'all are terrible. All right, more numbers. So the first number in the serial number also corresponds with that bank that issued the note. Okay? And let's see, all the little sevens in each corner. Seems like a little bit of overkill, but they really want you to know where that dollar came from. Okay? And then finally, the last digit of the serial number just tells you how many times that serial number's been used, because they have to reuse them. Otherwise, if they made them all unique, it would take up the whole face of the bill. Anyway, interesting? No? Whatever? Yeah? Yeah. Yes. Back a long time ago in our history, actual banks would do it. Okay? Like any bank. Any bank could print currency. And the reason they could is because it was just a promise that that amount of money was backed up with a specific amount of gold. And so you could do it. But now it's not backed up by gold, so only the Federal Reserve can issue currency. Yes, ma'am. So that serial number's been used 7 times. Okay? So the 691829990, that's been used 7 times. Because the last digit in it is the G, which is the 7th letter, so they've used it 7 times. Yeah. Yeah, the G here, that's just coincidental that that's a G. Yeah. No, it's in books. Okay, more stuff. Also, I mean, remember that National Treasure movie? You know how it started, all that symbolism and stuff? It's kind of interesting. So here's the Great Seal, okay? No, this is trivia. I'll tell you when. Okay. This was adopted in 1783. The American bald eagle holds an olive branch symbolizing peace. It has 13 berries and 13 leaves. Wonder why? 13 colonies. All right. The eagle also holds 13 arrows symbolizing war. The 13 units represent the original 13 colonies. The eagle's head is turned toward the branch, showing a desire for peace. So see, this eagle, he's ready for war, but he's ready for peace. He'd rather have peace. It's kind of like a mullet. Business up front, party in the back. Okay. E pluribus unum, that's our Latin. That means out of many one. And then, just to let you know, the pyramid up on the other side, okay, it stands for permanence and strength. It's unfinished, meaning that the United States is unfinished, because we're constantly improving. Okay. Future growth. And then there's that I in it. The I is representing the all-knowing deity. Okay? Huh? No. So the I represents the eternal eye of God and the virtue of putting the spiritual above the material. So, kind of interesting. All right, you can take notes now. Okay. So the Federal Reserve. All right, here's this is kind of interesting, I think. Is that the Federal Reserve, Gil and Aiden, is actually a private corporation. Did y'all know that? All right. So the Federal Reserve is owned privately, but it's controlled by the government. So that's why they call it a quasi-public bank. Privately owned, but publicly controlled. Okay? So these 12 banks that we're going to talk about today, these are all part of the government. Okay? Even though they're not owned by the government. So who owns them? Well, about 5,000, maybe 5,400 banks in the United States own the Federal Reserve. So these banks are all privately owned, and therefore, since they own the Federal Reserve is also privately owned. Okay? What percentage of banks are part of the Federal Reserve? 38%. Good. Okay? So each of these banks buys a share in the Federal Reserve System for $1. That's just like a token amount so that they can say that they own it. And the Federal Reserve then will pay them dividends, about 6% of their profits. I just need you to know why it is that these things are called quasi-public. It's because they're privately owned but publicly controlled. Okay, so if you get that, you're good. Okay. Let's see, they're a corporation that are owned by the banks in their districts, but it's also a public agency, and it's controlled by Congress. Okay? And all the decisions the Fed makes when they buy and sell bonds and do all the other things that they do, short-term loans and things, they end up earning a profit of about $30 billion a year. And that $30 billion, most of it is given to the Treasury of the United States, and then 10% of it is given to the district banks that own it. The Treasury, what do? They control the money of the United States, in effect. Not exactly, because the Fed controls the money supply. The Treasury just owns the assets of the United States, like all the gold and stuff. You know what? The question you just asked could be asked about any federal branch of government. Like, what do they do anyway? What do they even do? Exactly. Yeah, why is it called a commerce department? It should be called a non-commerce department, because they try to cut back commerce. Is ridiculous. Sorry, I'm too close to Ron Swanson right now. Huh? No, I'm okay. All right, so the Federal Reserve is made up of 12 districts, okay? And you'll notice, this is History Z, the districts on the East Coast are a lot smaller than the ones in the Midwest and the West, aren't they? So why is that? Well, they were established at the same time, but they apportioned it based on population, right, Kelly? Yeah. So back in 1913, all our population was on the East Coast, and these areas over here were sparsely populated.
New York's is
Yep. Yeah, Texas is awesome. Yeah. All right, those 12 district banks also have branch banks that do the same thing as the district banks. So even though like these districts out here are spread out, they have branch banks in Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, Salt Lake City. So there's still enough banks to serve the needs of the actual banks in the district. So the Dallas Bank has branches in San Antonio, Houston, and El Paso. Cool. Here's the original Dallas Fed Bank. This is trivia. That's the new one. So do you recognize it now? Have you driven past it? I don't know. You don't see it? It's so if you go over here to the left, over this way, you'd see the Perot Museum. And if you go towards us, you'd see Clyde Warren Park. So it's just right there. I have not. I'm going to go for prom, for sure. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, this is also trivia, but it's interesting because Richard Fisher is the Dallas Fed president. He's also a voting member of the Open Market Committee. So it's kind of a big deal. Huh? Nah, it's not important. There is one person I need you to know, and we'll talk about her in a minute. Anyway, the 7 Board of Governors. If we look at the hierarchy of the Fed, so the Federal Reserve is governed by 7 people here, okay? And I told you a little while ago there's not 7 right now, there's only 5. But there would be 7 at a normal time, I guess. Well, the Board of Governors are appointed by the President. And so if the President appoints 2 more, then they'll be there. But if he doesn't, then they won't. Anyway, this is the most important body of the Fed. They're appointed by the President and then confirmed by the Senate. Okay? They serve 14-year terms. So that means every 2 years a vacancy would open up and a new one would be appointed. However, these guys hardly ever serve a full 14-year term. That's a good question. Why do you think? Well, yeah. All right, so I'll tell y'all why. It's not because they die, and it's. Hold on, y'all are getting out of control here. Okay, Ben, what do you have? Hold on, she's onto something. The little weightlifter is onto something. What did you say? Okay. Yeah, these guys are like econ finance type geniuses. They can make a lot more money in the private sector. Okay? So that's why they don't stay on for 14 years. All right? That's good. I should give her a nickel for that, shouldn't I? Yep. All right. Oh, I forgot this. Okay, so why can they only serve one 14-year term? It is a very long time. So you know how many of y'all are in government? All right, I'm going to ask you a question. You should know it even if you're not in government, but do y'all know why it is that federal judges serve lifetime appointments? Oh, Ben.
Before the Justice Reform, when a new president would come in, the parties would shift, the judges would shift as well, and the leaders kind of back and forth across the political thing. So just so you know, in life, that means that.
No, they've always been appointed for life. It has nothing to do with the Great Depression. I mean, since the founding of the Constitution. No, that's no nickel. Olive, go. Yeah, so that's exactly right. So Olive deserves a nickel. All right. So, yeah, she said basically, I'm going to paraphrase, it keeps them independent so that they don't do what is popular at the time or what the president wants them to do. Okay? They can't be fired. So the president can't say, hey, I'm not going to renew your term, or I'm going to fire you if you don't do what I want you to do. Okay? It maintains their independence and integrity. All right, cool. Now, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, they only serve 4 years as the chairman. Okay, but they're a member of the Board of Governors anyway, so they have a 14-year term, but then they can be reappointed multiple times. Okay? And the chairman of the Fed makes $180,000, just Janet Yellen. So I need to change this. It used to be his pay, now it's her pay. Okay, it is Janet Yellen. How'd you know? I'll give you a nickel for that. All right. Beox. All right, y'all good? No? Okay. Yeah, but I mean, they quit. Do what? You remember Richard Fisher?
Yeah.
Okay. He's not a board of governor. He makes more than that as the Dallas Fed president. So, I mean, they can make more in a lot of places. Like at least double, triple. Okay. All right. So then we've got underneath the board of governors, if we're still looking at the hierarchy, we've got the Federal Open Market Committee. All right. This is the actual policy-making arm. Okay, this is the group of guys and girls that are going to meet, and they're going to discuss interest rates and the economy, and they're going to make decisions. Okay, so who sits on the Federal Open Market Committee? It includes the 7 Board of Governors. Okay, it includes the New York Fed president as a permanent member, and then it includes 4 other of the Fed bank presidents on a rotating basis. And so this year, and I guess for the next couple years, our Dallas Fed guy is on the board, or on the committee. Kelly. That's a good question. Why do you think? Huh? Mm-mm.
It was most powerful. It was most powerful branch for the chairman.
That makes sense. Okay. It's because of that. It's like, I mean, a lot of y'all said it. I heard it. It's like that's where, you know, our financial capital of the United States is. I mean, it's like that's the money center. And so that's why he's on it, or she, or whatever. All right. The other 7 bank presidents are non-voting members. So they're on the committee, but they don't vote. So they get to put their say. They just don't get to vote on it. And these guys meet every 6 weeks. And when they meet, what do you think they talk about? Money. Football, probably. They have a fantasy league that they're all part of. Now they look at GDP, unemployment, and inflation. Okay, those are the big ones. All right, y'all cool? Nope. Okay. All right. I'll give y'all a little more information while we're waiting then. So they look at GDP, unemployment, and inflation, right? But they also have this thing where they actually, I guess this rule developed sometime in the 80s. And so the monetary rule basically says that if they keep inflation at 2.5%, then GDP and unemployment will take care of themselves. So they focus really on inflation. If inflation's low, they increase the money supply. If inflation's above 2.5%, they decrease it. Now can I go? All right. So then underneath the Federal Open Market Committee, you have the 12 Fed banks, okay, and their branches. So it's pretty simple. And then beneath them, our Federal Reserve System is made up of the member banks. So what are the goals of the Fed? They want to ensure high employment, meaning low unemployment. Okay, they want to have economic growth. They want to keep the price level stable, okay, not wildly fluctuating. They also want to keep interest rates stable and exchange rates stable. It doesn't mean these things don't change. Okay, you'll have a change in prices and a change in interest rates and a change in exchange rates. They just like those changes to be slow and gradual. All right, y'all cool? Because we are done with the Fed, I think. Oh, exchange rates. Oh, and I lied. We're not done with the Fed. We got to explain what they do. Okay. So, are you ready now? Okay. So this is what the Fed does. Okay. They make the rule as far as the reserve requirement goes. So when you guys put money in your bank is allowed to loan 90% of your deposits to other people. But your bank's not allowed to loan 10%. So that 10% is the current reserve requirement. Does that make sense for y'all? Okay. The Fed also destroys and issues paper notes. So have y'all ever had a ratty looking dollar bill? Okay. When that gets deposited into your bank will set it aside, send it back to the Fed, and exchange it for a brand new one. The Fed will then take that note and destroy it. So as they wear out, they just get rid of them. Okay. The Fed also controls the money supply. So if they want it bigger, they'll make it bigger. If they want it smaller, they'll make it smaller. Courtney? They burn them, or yeah, they shred and burn.
My aunt works for the control of the currency, and every certain amount of times every year, they give out bags of the shredded.
Oh man, she should try to put them back together. Gil, that's your job.
If I put one back together, I get all the nickels.
Yeah, but I have to, no, because you'll cut your own up into big strips. I don't trust you. Yeah, they're tiny. They are tiny slivers. Yeah, 49%, it's no good anymore. All right. Hey, the term easy and tight. Well, y'all should know these. Easy money means they're making the money supply bigger. Tight means they're making it smaller. Another thing the Fed does is they are the fiscal agent for the federal government, so they're the federal government's bank, in effect. And then this is less so today than it was in the past, but the Fed is in charge of clearing checks. So what does that mean? That means if you write a check to somebody and they live in a different district, they're going to, well, I'll just go through the scenario. Sydney, where are you from? No, you're from San Francisco. Okay. So I write Sydney a check, and she takes it home to her bank in San Francisco. She deposits it in her bank. Then her bank sends that check to the San Francisco Federal Reserve Bank. Okay? Federal Reserve in San Francisco sends that check to the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank. And then the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank sends that check to my bank. And then my bank tells them if there's money or not. They'd probably tell you that there's not. But let's pretend that they tell you there is. So then they'll send the money to the Federal Reserve Bank in Dallas, who will send the money to the Federal Reserve Bank in San Francisco, who will then finally put the money in your account. Yep. But imagine how long it used to take before we had computers. All of that process was done through the mail. And so it was weeks. So do you remember that movie, Catch Me If You Can? Yes, no? Yeah, he got away with it because of that process. It takes so long. He wrote hot checks. Mm-hmm. He would, there were forgeries. Yeah, he'd pretend to be other people and he'd make forged checks.
Was he like a pilot? He pretended to be a pilot?
Yeah, he pretended to be a pilot. He pretended to be a doctor. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And he also pretended to be a police officer, and he always said like something about
I don't remember that. I believe you though. And then the last thing they do is they supervise member banks. So they make sure those member banks are obeying the rules, making sure they're keeping their reserve requirements, where they're supposed to be, making sure they don't make bad investments with depositors' money, things like that. So here's your first board of governors. You don't have to know them. And here's the current one. So Janet Yellen, Ben told us, is the chairman.
Janet Yellen.
Hey, that's
This one? I'm not going to make a comment about people's looks, but if I were that type of person, I would say she looked like she had some Botox.
Let's find out how old Lady Yellen actually is.
Gil, you're unoriginal. Somebody did it in yesterday, and she's 52. Sorry. All right. Now we're back to trivia. Okay? The trivia is here just to illustrate to you that the Fed tries to, and by the way, the Fed doesn't print money. Okay? The Bureau of Engraving and Printing does that. But the Fed helps them design it how they want, to have less counterfeiting. So anyway, this is the 20th new look. So they what?
Janet Yellen was born in 1946.
So how that makes her 54 plus 14, 68? Yeah.
Wait, that was the most powerful?
No. That was the other girl.
Oh.
All right. Well, since this is trivia, I'll just skip ahead. The point is that there's counterfeiting measures put in place on these bills. They use different color inks. They use the watermarks. The inks, you hold at different angles. It's different colors. It's got the polymer thread.
It would be so easy with technology to like make fake money. How would people notice? If I went to the gas station, I doubt I'd
No, come on. That's why they changed it up. Back when it had just like it was like a monochromatic, just like the green and the white. You could use a laser, printer and make your own, sort of.
Coach, if you were a counterfeiter, wouldn't you just counterfeit like 10 deposits to see what you thought?
Probably so. Now, the 20 is the most counterfeited in the United States, but it's the 100 worldwide. So the 100 has its new design. The 50's got a new design. The 20's got a new design, of course. The 10, it's got that cool design. And the 5, it's supposed to look something like this, like with the holographic eyes bugging out and the bow tie lighting up. It would be hard. No. All right. And here's an example of counterfeiting in Europe. So I'm not going to read this to you, but basically a bakery owner was counting his till at the end of the day, and he discovered this euro. It's Homer Simpson. It's pretty cool. All right. Uh-oh. No. 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 I guess.
In Europe, the codes are actually worse than like so you don't well,
Close.
well, the thing is like
All right. Holy cow, what did I do? All right. Who? Oh, Ben, go ahead. He's talking? Go ahead.
I was thinking Europe codes are actually worse because they have $1
All right, and then I think this is the last thing on counterfeiting. This bill was passed at a Dairy Queen, I think in Kentucky, and they accepted it and gave change. So
Wait, what's do we even $1,000 bill?
we used to. Yep. So we used to. In fact, we've had I think $10,000 bill was the biggest one we had. It had Grover Cleveland on it. When? In the 1930s, I think they phased them out. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, since 1946, we've had no bills bigger than 100. 100 is the biggest. Okay? This is trivia. Okay? But it costs 3.5 cents to print a dollar. Okay? A dollar lasts about 1.5 years. It costs 12 cents to mint a coin. Okay? And the dollar coins last 30 years. So the government could save $400 million a year if people would use more Sacagaweas. That's the dollar coin. Remember her? Okay.
Wait, why don't we make $2 bills?
They still make them.
They still make that?
They don't make a lot of them. They make them on order. Like the Bureau of Engraving will make the currency that the Fed Bank orders. So whatever they want. All right. So I think that's one reason people didn't like that coin. It's like, who is this? Because they don't know history. So they replaced it with the presidential coins. The big issue here, though, is that somebody noticed that the front of it doesn't have "In God We Trust." And so people freaked out. It was put on the side. And that's what the conspiracy theorists said. They said if it's on the side because they don't want it there, and so it's going to wear off. So they put it back. They put it back on there. All right, now we're at notes that are important, okay? We're going to look at the money supply now and why we use money. So there's too much money? Maybe there is. So here's how much money we actually have in circulation, okay? There's $1,260 billion in currency in circulation, and then there's $1,540 billion in our checking accounts. So when we're talking about the money supply, we're actually not just talking about these. Okay? It's what's in our checking account plus the dollar bills that are floating around. Okay? In fact, 55% of our money supply is just checking accounts. And if I think y'all already realize that if we all went to the bank today, our money wouldn't be there. Do y'all realize that? Okay. So our checking account balance is a lot of, I guess it's what you'd call electronic money. Okay? It's out there. And we can spend it, but it doesn't really exist. Because we don't do it all at once. So there's enough there for some of us to go get it. But if we all went to get it, it wouldn't be there. So, right, in the 1930s, that's what happened. Huh? That's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, exactly. So, money is made up of about 45% currency, which is the paper notes and the coins, and then 55% demand deposits. And that's a term y'all need to be aware of, okay? Demand deposits, sometimes we'll abbreviate it with DD. It just means checkable accounts, checkable deposits. It's your checking account, okay? Y'all cool with that? Okay. Some people will say that money is anything you can buy a candy bar with. Okay. So why do we use money instead of bartering? Okay, that's a good one. It's universal. What do you mean by that?
You know, some people who have a short bill, some people will be like, oh yeah, I'll trade milk for it. And some people will be like, no, I trade iPhone for it. So.
Yeah, because when you barter, the things you're bartering have different values for different people, right? And so it's very difficult. So let's look at an example of successful bartering.
Is having our first ever garage sale. Like many Americans, we realized we had a lot of things that we didn't really need. And 10 cents of every dollar is going into the party fund, so we can throw parties for ourselves.
That's good.
People, look alive! It's showtime! Doors open in 3, 2, 1. Uh-oh, like someone's sign's a little crooked. Ugh, it's awful. In fun time? Sure, not so fast. Schmutz are farmers by hobby and traders by trade. Through the arc of the swamp, I will walk out of this garage sale with the finest item here. I will trade you for the used camel. Come on, it's trash. Like your sign unless you have this. Fine, just get it. That's how it's done.
6 hours later.
Nice telescope.
Gives you a real good look at the moon. Let me tell you, it ain't made cheese.
Only thing is I don't really need a telescope because I have a pie.
Nice. So that's how he did it. I left out a lot of stuff, but basically he kept trading up and up and up. Okay? So barter is where we just trade goods and services with each other without the exchange of money. All right? So if you needed to define barter, that's how it would work. However, and this alludes back to what Stephanie was telling us, before trade can occur, there has to be a double coincidence of wants. Okay? One person has to have what another wants, and the other person has to be able to trade what the first person wants. It's very confusing. Okay? So we had to have that double coincidence of wants. As an example, have y'all ever traded lunch items? Okay. So this little girl, she's not real interested in the salad that the cafeteria is forcing her to eat now. And so she looks at the little boy and says, I'll trade you my salad for a Twinkie. Little boy is very happy to trade his Twinkie, but not for a salad. He wants ice cream. Okay? So the girl is very confused. She doesn't know where she's going to find anybody who's willing to take salad for ice cream. And of course, this girl sums it all up. But that's life. Yeah. All right. So in a barter economy, the point is this. As another example, a chicken farmer needs shoes. Okay? The chicken farmer has chickens, but he can't find a shoemaker that's willing to trade chickens for shoes. The shoemaker wants apples. So now the farmer has to find somebody willing to trade chicken for apples. And then he's got to take the apples and then go find the shoe guy. So see how that's a kind of a convoluted process? It can be very difficult. So here's another example. Let's say, who owns the pig? Who wants to? Oh, Gil. Okay. Okay. Gil owns a pig, and I have a donut. I would like to trade you my donut for your pig. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Why? This is not going to end well. All right. Oh, Katie, you said the pig's worth more? Or Jessica? You did. Okay. That's right. The pig is worth more. So you and I have to negotiate. Okay? We have to figure out how much of the pig could we actually trade for a donut. All right? Well, we could do that. If we actually went through this process, it'd be very time-consuming. Okay? So I'm going to cut to the chase. We're going to trade this for the donut. Okay? Yep. We had to calculate. We had to figure out how much of the pig is actually worth the donut. Then we had to negotiate back and forth. It's actually very, very confusing. So we finally agree to it. Poor Gil. I would not really do this. But can y'all all agree that barter can be a slow and difficult process? Do what? Give you more what? Oh. Okay.
I like a nice hand. Do you think that's wrong? We're just enjoying the flavors of a fallen friend. True.
All right. You guys do realize that pigs will eat pigs, right? Okay. Just making sure. So what's easier, barter or money?
Money.
Yep. Speaking of money and stuff like that, we need just a randomly thrown in vocabulary word, liquidity. Okay? Liquidity is how quickly something can be converted to cash. Okay? So cash itself is 100% liquid. Okay, agree with that? How about, what do you think's more liquid? My awesome solid gold Aggie ring or this used cup of racetrack coffee? It's gold. There's like cashforgold.com. It's easy. You can turn, I mean, it's easily turned to cash. I mean, very easily. This is not as easily turned into cash. So, anyway, liquidity is just how quickly something can be turned into cash. And y'all have seen this word before, or at least part of it. Well, maybe there, but have you ever seen a commercial or an ad for a liquidation sale? Yeah. The whole point of that is they're just trying to turn their assets into cash. Okay? So it's less expensive to use money. All right? The calculation of exchange is faster. Okay? If you try to calculate your exchange using barter, it's very slow. And we just saw, I mean, as one example, Gil and I trading donuts for pigs, that's very difficult. Also, if you looked at Dwight earlier, it took him 6 hours to trade up to that telescope. Okay? He could probably make enough money with his job in 6 hours to buy the telescope. So it's much faster and cheaper to use money. Okay? The reason it's less expensive to use money is because using money saves time, and time is money. So are we all clear on why we don't use barter? Okay? Now, if you go on Craigslist, you'll see all kinds of people bartering. Okay? So people still do it. But in general, our economy is much better off using money. Okay? So why do we, in order for something to be considered money, it has to perform 3 functions. So this is good note-taking again, because y'all have to know the 3 functions of money. Okay, the first one is the most important one, medium of exchange. Okay? And these words have to be used explicitly correctly. Okay? You can't start mixing them together. You have to use the right terminology. So medium of exchange just means money is used to facilitate the transaction. Okay, it's the thing that goes between the buyer and the seller. Okay, so medium means something in the middle. So money is a medium of trade between buyers and sellers because it can be exchanged. And I think, Steffi, you said something about it being universal, right? Okay, everybody's willing to accept money. Therefore, money is easy to use to facilitate trade. Now, real quick, this is what we think of as money, right? But really, any asset that people are willing to accept in return as payment for a good or service could be money. So if you think about it, on the planet of the apes, they could use bananas, right? Yeah, but you could still use bananas. If everybody on the planet of the apes is willing to accept bananas as payment, then it would be money. Make sense? I'm not telling you that that's a good idea to use bananas for money. I'm just saying you could. Okay? All right, so this avoids the double coincidence of wants that barter requires. All right, the second function of money. We use money as a unit of account. Okay, how often have y'all actually used money, not to buy something, but to just appraise the worth of something, or to estimate what something's going to cost? Don't y'all do that a lot? Okay. Well, when we use money as a unit of account, all we're doing is stating prices, or stating value. So, as an example, Gil, do you drive an automobile? What kind? What year? 2010 Ford F-150. So, if we wanted to figure out what it's worth, what would you say it's worth? No. You think? Is it? I mean, that seems awfully high.
I got it last 13th birthday.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, let's just say it's worth 20,000. We just use money as a unit of account. Okay. And if let's pretend my car is worth 15,000. That means we're using money to compare the worths of our 2 vehicles, and we could say that his is worth more. Does that make sense? Okay, so we didn't buy anything with the money. We're just using money to state the value of 2 things. Okay? So money's like a yardstick, or it's a unit of measure. Okay? We use money as a unit of measure to tell what things are worth or what they're going to cost. And that's called unit of account. Everybody cool? All right. The third function of money. Oh, by the way, let's go back for a second. Do bananas serve this function? I think they do. How many bananas is that going to cost me? You know, how many bananas do you make a year? You know, that sort of thing. So we could still use bananas as a unit of account. But the third function of money is where bananas just fall apart, okay? They can't store value. So money has to be able to store value. So it shouldn't wear out easily, and it should hold up to inflation. So if I save my bananas, I'm saving them up for a new car, and a year later I pull all the bananas out from under my bed, are my bananas still worth the same? They're definitely not worth anything. I'd probably have to pay somebody to come take them. Okay. Like horses? Yeah. Right. That's true. Mm-hmm. That is true. You know, you bring up I'll give you a great example. I taught you this in class, I think. If the price of grain goes higher, what happens to the price of beef? No, hold on. It also goes higher, right? Because there's going to be a smaller supply. That's in kind of the medium term. But immediately, guess what farmers do with all their cows? They sell them as quick as they can because they don't want to pay them the higher prices. So for the short term, they would go down in price. And then later they'd go up in price. For that same reason. I designed it and then sent it to a wooden nickel manufacturer, and they made them for me. Mm-hmm. So my first set was have y'all seen the older one? Well, you might have. I mean, yeah. So, no, but the first set I bought 1,000 of those, and then as they wore out and got lost, I bought 1,000 of the new ones. So, yeah. So there's probably about 1,500 of them in circulation right now. None of them. Those are all new. No, they're backed by grades. All right. So are y'all cool on store value? It just means you can save your money, and then when you try to spend it later, it's still worth about what it was worth before, okay? We do have inflation, but for the most part, it's still worth something, okay? So now, there's 4 other characteristics of money that are beneficial to have, but they're not, you know, they don't define how we actually use money. So money should be scarce, it should be portable, okay? It should be divisible, and it should be difficult to counterfeit. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So, you know, scarce, that means it has to be, like, regulated, like how much there could actually be. So the Federal Reserve helps us make it scarce. Portable. What if all of our dollar bills were made of, like, cardboard and they were all, like, 12 inches wide? And would that be difficult to carry around? Okay. What? Yes. And then you forget about it. Yeah. Money should be divisible. That means that we have to have different denominations of currency so that we can give change. And it should be difficult to counterfeit, because if it's not difficult to counterfeit, it's not going to be scarce. All right. Y'all ready to play What's the Function?
Yes.
All right. Gil, you were enthusiastic. You get to go first.
Okay.
All right. You ready? Yeah. All right. Popeye estimates that he will need $500 in order to take olive oil to the prom. How is he using money?
Out of 3, I'm going to go with unit of.
That's it. Why do you have to be so tentative? Will you pass that back? No, you need to, like, own it. Okay? That's unit of account, because Popeye's not buying anything. He's just trying to figure out what it's going to cost. So he's measuring the value or the cost of something. All right, cool. Sydney, you up? All right. Sydney, Diana saves her money from her bus driving job to get a real car. Ding, 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 ding. All right. That's it. All right. Leslie, you up for it? All right. Sanders threatens the tri-state area with a shrinkinator unless they pay him $1 billion. Yeah. So anytime you're using money to buy something, it's medium of exchange. If you're using money to measure the value of something, then it's unit of account. Anytime you save your money, it's store of value. Very good. All right. Who's next? Marcella, you up for it? All right. Gil and Andrea spend $50 on flowers, then commemorate the occasion in a selfie. Yes. They couldn't get the flowers if they didn't spend the money. Oh, you might keep it.
Where do you find these pictures?
Stalkers.com. They're all there. I just put in the people I want to stalk, and it comes up with it for me. The BL Facebook page. You know y'all are on there? All right, Aiden. President Kennedy estimates that her tax cuts will grow the economy by $1 trillion. That is unit of account. Good job. Gabby, you already earned something today.
Hey, remember that one time you didn't give me a
I gave you one today, though. All right, it's either going to be... Okay, I'm going to go with Jessica. All right, it's Jessica's turn. Lieutenant Dan saves his money for new prosthetics. Store value, you got it. All right, nice. All right. Told y'all today would be easy, right? All right, more vocabulary, guys. We need to understand the difference between commodity money and fiat money. Okay? So commodity money is stuff we use as money that actually has like a primary purpose. In other words, it has some intrinsic value outside of being money. Okay? So we've got gold. Okay? We've used gold and silver as money before, right? Well, you can also use gold and silver to make jewelry. Okay? In prison, they'll use cigarettes, but on the outside, we use cigarettes to smoke. On the inside, they'll maybe use them as currency. In our past, we've used grain and livestock as money. Okay? You've been able to buy things with grain or with livestock. We've used people before. Okay? Yeah. So that's commodity money. Everybody cool with that? Okay. How about fiat money? Now we're looking at something that its only purpose is as money. So it'd be our currency, right? Okay. So paper notes and coins, they don't have an intrinsic value outside of being money. Okay? You guys cool? That was pretty good. Did you see the Aggie game? Yes. Yep, the Aggie game worked out pretty good. How'd Oklahoma do?
Oh, my God. Okay, so people started leaving at halftime.
Oh.
And Knight got hurt.
Oh, Trevor Knight, did Katy Perry come kiss his boo-boo? Oh, that's a bummer. All right, guys. What type of money is the Walden nickel? Is it commodity money or fiat money? That's good. It is fiat money. How'd you know? Yeah, it has no other intrinsic value. That's the only thing you can use it for. That's because it's money. Yeah, but what if I randomly said they're not worth any points? Now they're not even money at all. They're nothing. Okay? All right. We're on the home stretch now. We're almost at the very end of this, okay? The Federal Reserve measures the money supply two ways, okay? They have what's called M1, and that's where they measure the currency plus the demand deposits, okay? So that's, when we simply refer to the money supply, that's what we're talking about, okay? But the Fed will call it M1, or M1 money supply. Also included here would be traveler's checks or other check-like deposits. So there's some accounts out there that you can write checks on, but they're more like savings accounts. This would be like that. All right, now note, I've got two different values here. So what I've done is I'm just illustrating to you how the money supply has grown. So demand deposits. So back in around 2009, our M1 money supply was about $1.6 trillion. Okay? Today, it's almost $9 trillion. So see how it's gotten big just in the last 5 years? It's like more than doubled. Or no, I'm sorry, almost doubled. Okay? And then the percentages are the same as what I told you earlier. About 45% of our money supply is currency, about 55% is checking accounts. All right, so that's M1. Everybody got them? Bless you. All right, then the Fed also calculates a money measure called M2. M2 is M1 plus savings accounts. Okay? Some vocabulary here, I guess. Where it says TD, that's not touchdowns. That's time deposits. So that's a special kind of savings account where you agree with the bank that you're going to leave it in the bank for a specified amount of time. So like a certificate of deposit would be like that. Okay? And by the way, all of these deposits that we call savings deposits have to be below $100,000. Okay? And I did the same thing for you back in 2009. The M2 measure was 7,700 billion or 7.7 trillion. Today it's about almost 5 trillion. And then we've got the letter V. What does V stand for in physics class? It's what? V for vendetta. No, it's okay. It's not like vendetta. It's the same thing it means in physics class. In economics class, V stands for velocity. Okay. No, it's velocity, not voltage. So it's how many times a dollar changes hands in a year. And the reason that's important is right here. I don't know if y'all can read it. And this isn't something I'm going to test y'all on, but it's just extra information that helps explain why we use monetary policy. Okay? This is the monetary equation of exchange, or actually I forgot what we called it. But anyway, it takes the money supply times the velocity of money, and that equals P times Q, which is price times quantity. And so this, if you'll remember, just means nominal GDP. So the rule says that if we increase the money supply and velocity remains stable or constant, then nominal GDP increases. So that's the idea behind monetary policy. If we want GDP to go up, we increase the money supply. If we want it to go down, we decrease the money supply. Yeah, P times Q. Yeah, price times quantity. But that's we would refer to that as nominal GDP. It's the monetary rule. So money supply times velocity equals price times quantity. And the idea is that the velocity is a stable number. So it's been 10 for like decades. Okay? The reason I'm not making you learn this is because it turns out this velocity number is probably not really stable, because we've increased our money supply by almost double, but GDP hasn't gone up. Not by very much. Okay? So if this goes up and this stays basically the same, then this must have gone down. So the velocity isn't as stable as we thought. Okay? So as we've gone through class, and if you look at your history books, y'all probably have realized at this point that money has become more abstract. Yes, ma'am, Jessica.
What is it?
Yeah, we're not doing M3 anymore. The Fed used to measure money in a third way, and it was called the M3. And then what they would do is they take M2 and just add in the large savings accounts. So then you have savings accounts above 100,000. But they quit measuring that. So money used to be an actual physical commodity, so gold, okay, or in ancient times, grains. Then it became a piece of paper that represents that gold. So, gold's hard to carry around. So people would start carrying this little piece of paper that represents the gold. All right? Then it became a piece of paper that wasn't backed up by gold. So it just has value because the government says so. Okay, so that's fiat money. And now, most of us don't even spend real money anymore, do we? Don't use your debit cards? Yeah. So now we've got, basically, money's just some sort of an electronic entry. So it's become more and more abstract. No, I don't think that's bad, necessarily, Ben. It creates more commerce, so it creates, more spending. Do what? Yeah, that's a real one. It's not like money like we would think of. It's a gold certificate. So it's worth a specified amount of gold. All right, you all good? All right. So basically, as prices go up, the value of our money goes down. I think we've already discussed that. Okay, so there's an inverse relationship between price level and the value of money. And that's, by the way, is one of the big criticisms of monetary policy then. Is if they pump more and more money into the economy, the value of that money goes down. All right, y'all ready to check our knowledge? Make sure we know everything? All right. Jonathan, the most important function of money is as? Very good. Okay. Ben, if you're estimating that it will take $5,000 to escort Susie Rah-Rah to the prom so that you can demonstrate your talent with Econ Rap, you're using money as? Nice. Okay. Kelly, if you place some of your Kroger's earnings in a safety deposit box so you can get your boyfriend Roger Rocket a pair of rollerblades for Christmas, you're using money as? Nice. Courtney, if you estimate expenses for A&M at $13,000 a year, you're using money as? Nice. Okay. Gil, if Susienomics writes a check for a new Jeep, she's using money as? Good. Y'all got this down. All right. Aiden, M1 is comprised of coins, paper money, and? Nice. The major component of M1 is what, Katie and I? Checkable deposits. Z, the volume of M1 is closest to 1, 3, or $4 trillion. 3 trillion. Good. M1 or M2 includes non-checkable savings accounts. Grace. M2. Fiat or commodity money is money because the government says that it is. Jonathan. Fiat. Good. The value of money varies directly or inversely with the price level. Luke. It's inversely. Good. All right. Gabby, you're a math whiz. If the price index increases from 100 to 120, the value of the dollar will fall by how much? Nice. Good job. All right. Shane, the money supply is backed by silver, gold, or the government? Government. Good job. All right. We're actually done, but I have trivia for you. Okay. In the Yap Islands, like if you're into anthropological information, in the Yap Islands there's about 6,000 inhabitants, and they use those stone discs as money. Okay. These stone discs are called rai, and they range in size from a few millimeters up to 12 feet in diameter. And that's what they use as money. Is that not crazy?